Why does everyone see human ghosts and never dinosaur ghosts? Story 1. Because all dinosaur ghosts are in ultraviolet, so humans can't see them, so they only haunt bees, since bees see in ultraviolet. Dinosaur ghosts are actually the reason for the shrinking bee population. Edit. I don't actually visit our shitty-ass science, though I'm thinking now that I probably should. Also, thanks for gold. Story 2. Because ghosts are souls, and dinosaur souls are an important ingredient in making oil. There have been dinosaur ghosts before, but they were all captured by big oil corps to save them for the time more black substance is needed. 100 true. Edit. Source. I am a dinosaurologist and an oilologist. You have to believe me. Story 3. This sounds like a question for our shitty Ask Science, and I will answer it in that spirit. You see, dinosaur spirits are constantly trying to make themselves known, but due to their incredible stupidity and tendency to have their earthly remains burned up in internal combustion engines, they are only visible to dogs and small humans in the wee hours of the night. Story 4. Okay, this is going to come off as weird, but a hobby of mine is reading a shoot-ton of New Age shoot, because I find it interesting that people believe it in. Granted, I have not heard anyone talk about dinosaur ghosts in anything I have come across, but this is a theory I came up with based on what those with that mindset would say. Please note, I don't believe in this. First, what is a ghost? The spirit of something dead. The spirit being the thoughts and emotions of those that lived. The reason humans are the most commonly seen ghost is because our thoughts and emotions are so complex. We know what we look like, and therefore the form we take is the form we know, ourselves. As for other animal spirits like dogs, cats, or spiders, their spirits again depend on intelligence. A dog or cat may be aware of its body and then appear as themselves, while other animals' only view of itself was feelings. So, naturally, the spirit would take on the form of the animal's feelings. Obviously, we don't know the intelligence of dinosaurs for sure, so although most may just be spirits in the form of emotional energy, some may have been smart enough to hold their form. However, many new, aged, spiritologists believe that the older the spirit is, despite its intelligence, the more formless it becomes. Eventually, even in human spirits, the intelligence thought gives out to the emotional energy. Spirits get confused, angry, and scared of the spirit world, and become nothing more than beings of emotions. Dinosaur spirits are probably one of the oldest ones, so if mediums think, and they do, that some spirits can develop into nothing but emotional energy in just a few decades, dinosaurs were screwed with over millions of years of decay. So now for your question. Why don't people see dinosaur ghosts? They probably do. It's just that the spirit is so old, people are just seeing emotional energy being expressed, and that's actually a common type of haunting. What's described as weird feelings, scratches, things being thrown about, perhaps even growls could all be angry dinosaur spirits that have not gone to rest. TLDR. We do see them, but Dino's too old son, and now its ghost blob is possessing your dad with rage to make him hit you again. Answer. See, the problem I have with this type of pseudo-scientific explanation describing souls as a type of energy is that ghosts are always viewed as eternal, even if they, as you say, decay into shapelessness. So here we have a worldview where every living thing is born with a spirit that becomes a ghost after its body has died, and that ghost then haunts the world for all eternity. New energy keeps coming into the world from nowhere without ever leaving. Wouldn't we all be neck-deep in the shapeless emotional energy left by every creature that ever lived? Wouldn't we notice that? If I were bullshitting a theory about ghosts, I would take a cue from Hinduism and say that all those souls are reincarnated once they've dissipated and joined with the Brahma after X number of years. The reason we don't see dinosaur ghosts, then, is that their spirits have long since dissolved into the all-energy of the universe from which new souls are forged. Story 5. The comet eliminate them so hard that their ghosts have ghosts, and only ghosts can be haunted by dino ghosts. Story 6. Serious scientific answer. This may in part have something to do with the fusiform face area of the human visual system. It seems that there has been a lot more research on this topic since I last read about it, and the region's role is not quite as clear, but essentially this is an area of the brain that has evolved to detect faces, particularly human or human-like faces. This is probably also why people see, e.g., a face on the surface of Mars, the Virgin Mary on a piece of burnt toast, etc. Sometimes the FFA is a bit too good at recognizing faces. I'm sure there are several psychological answers to your question as well, but my guess is the FFA is at least a factor in this phenomenon. Edit. Replaced mobile Wikipedia link. Story 7. Serious answer. People want to feel a glimmer of hope they will ever get into contact again with their deceased loved ones, so that's why they imagine human ghosts. I'm sure some people imagine the ghosts of their dead pets roaming around the house as well. Apparently, there aren't many people who can remember dinosaurs living on Earth and long for them to return. Edit. Also are pareidolia. Story 8. People's visual and perception systems are tuned to try to see faces and human-esque shapes from random inputs more than they are for dinosaurs. Cultural experience tells people that's what they should see, so they do. Story 9. I answered this here. Shitty Ask Science. Where are the dinosaur ghosts? Basically, there was a ghost asteroid impact which eliminate off their ghosts. Story 10. When people bring up ghosts as a topic, I ask them this. If they believe in ghosts, do bugs have ghosts? They'll say no. Then I ask, do dogs have ghosts? I'll get a yes. I'll move down from complex animals to less, and somewhere they will decide that an animal doesn't have a ghost. Say when I ask, do fish have ghosts? Or if crabs have ghosts. So they don't get ghosts, but horses, cats, dogs, and people do. Why? I've asked people and they state different reasons. I always feel like a massive maladying twonk when I do this. Just interesting chat, I guess. Answer. Anybody who acts like they know about this shoot and has a complex hierarchy of which animals do or do not have ghosts is an idiot. But tons of people believe in ghosts without claiming to know what, if anything, could be ruled out. Concepts like ghost trains and ships have been around for hundreds of years. There's no reason to answer no to any animal if you think ghosts are in any way a thing. Story 11. Let's write off the because ghosts aren't real point of things, because A, it's no fun. B, it's not really what you're looking for here. For the following spiel, we'll presume Ghost Hunters is a documentary show, and that stuff and stuff like it is all real. First, some terminology, because it matters going forward. A lot of people mix these two things up, but they're important distinctions because they behave differently and have different causes. Ghost, residual energy from a previous creature or event that creates a sound or image which plays over and over again around an area, person, or object. Spirit, the remaining force soul of a living creature that has not stopped interacting with the world, planates of the living. First, ghost dinosaurs. The truth is, most of the things that were around when the dinosaur would have caused an imprint deep enough to keep replaying are gone. Even their fossilized bones are really just sediment that filled in where the bone used to be. So in a lot of cases, there's nothing to bind the energy of the dinosaur's life to. But let's say some tie to that dinosaur's life remained intact. There is some belief that the energy forcing the apparition to keep appearing does fade with time and eventually just won't be there anymore. Now, spirit dinosaurs. Well, for some people the answer is only humans have souls. I've never found that a very satisfying answer, for exactly the reasons above. Let's presume dinosaurs go to dinosaur heaven, and some of them would refuse to move on, or get stuck. First, there's the presumption that they'd be stuck forever. I'm sure most of them would eventually disappear because they just move on. There simply wouldn't be enough left to see. Second, there's the theory that it takes some conscious energy for the spirit on one side to reach across and make contact with the living. Again, there usually has to be some emotional connection to a person or object that the spirit could use to make contact. What would that be for a dinosaur and a person? What thing would they share that would let them bridge that gap? But that's presuming there would be something that would even let a dinosaur not pass on or want to come back. What unfinished business would a dinosaur have in this world? Man, that Stegosaurus was tasty. So sad I couldn't finish eating him. And that's the reason we don't see ghosts. Dinosaurs. They've either faded out, moved on, or don't have the means to connect with the animals alive today. Or maybe they do. That noise you thought was the house settling, it's just the attic being nudged by a ghost brontosaurus looking for a friend. Story 12. On a similar subject, I find it intriguing that people who have visions of religious deities only see the deities of their religion, not one they don't accept. If there were any merit to one religion being true, people ought to see a common group of deities. Clearly, this isn't the case. Story 13. Dinosaurs don't give a shoot about unsolved business. People report ghosts of all sorts of creatures, not just humans. Maybe there are dinosaur ghosts running around. But whenever a door slams in the dark, people don't immediately think, oh shoot, velociraptors. Also, you would presumably need to be in a place where there are a lot of dinosaurs, and the layout of the planet was completely different a few million years ago. A lot of the areas where dinosaur ghosts would be are underwater. Story 14. Last I heard, the dinosaur ghosts were taken out by some jerk ghost meteor. Some say the ghost ash caused by the impact is still blocking out the ghost sun to this day. Tragic. Story 15. Dinosaurs were never intelligent enough to produce the correct amount of plasmatine required to become ghosts on passing. Come on, man. This is Ghasts 101. Most animals, including humans, contain a small amount of plasmatine, which is a hormone manufactured in the spectroid gland. Now everyone knows that spectroid gland size is tied directly to brain size, and so it follows humans have a pretty sweet setup when it comes to plasmatine production. We make more of it, store more of it, and produce it more quickly. Our body can crank it out to order, though obviously doing gas-to-mare exercises is going to help with that. But when we die, it has to go somewhere. When animals croak, what's left just kind of dissipates. They never really produce enough to result in more than just a little squirt of ectoplasm at best. Next time you see some roadkill, check it out. You can usually see it as a sort of yellowish-white halo around the base of the neck, location of the spectroid of Kaus. This is just the way it is for animals. Small brain, insufficient plasmatine production. Humans, on the other hand, have much larger and more complex brains, and when you die, it's gotta come out. It's kind of like you voiding your bowels and usually happens about 1 to 2 seconds after that. Without the ability to control the flow in and out of the gland, all the pent-up plasmatine just leaks out of the back of your neck and spreads across your whole body. It's basically like being covered in An insanely thin, full-body wetsuit, except made of some pretty rank gunk. Obviously, some people have some trouble with their spectroid before they die and get all kinds of weird protrusions and outpourings of plasmotine. But when you die, it's a pretty smooth and silky substance. If you're getting something like this, you really want to speak to your doctor. It's no picnic living with occultism, but there's a lot more they can do for you these days, and you won't get treated like some sideshow freak as in Victorian times. So anyway, once you're coated, the plasmatine just kind of gets absorbed into whatever's around you, but it does retain your shape. When conditions are right, static electricity is an enormous help. It can be snapped back into position kind of like muscle memory, and you get these weird, translucent apparitions that look a lot like ghosts, and that's where the stories come from. Obviously, if the plasmatine can't soak into its surroundings, then you can't really get these things, hence no ghosts in space. I'm amazed this didn't get covered in school, but I hope it helps. Story 16. You see them all the time. Dinosaur ghosts are actually trapped deep beneath the earth, bonded to the crude oil that is all that remains of their mortal coils. However, the process of burning fossil fuels for energy frees the dinosaur ghosts. That's in fact exactly what you're seeing leaving a vehicle's exhaust pipe. Dinosaur souls, freely ascending to dinosaur heaven. Source: Am dinosaur theologian working for BP. Story 17. To believe sightings in Africa, people do see dinosaur ghosts, or, as the Africans call it, Mokel Mbembe. Here's a picture of the phantasmal creature. In Indonesia, in the 1300s, people evidently saw dinosaur ghosts too, because a dinosaur is portrayed in a temple with carvings of other realistic animals. Among the carvings of monkeys, cats, and wolves, you see this. Native Americans must have seen them too, because they also depicted them in art. See here too. And here. Footnote. People still routinely report sightings of pterodactyls too. The Native Americans referred to it as the Thunderbird, and people all along the US-Mexico border have been describing pterodactyls for ages. One newspaper report even claims that one tried to steal a boy in Texas. People in Papua New Guinea also claim to see them. So if you start from the premise that dinosaurs are extinct, then these people must all be seeing ghosts. For extra credit, see footage from China of an alleged pterosaur. Story 18. God forsook this land and left everything else in the hands of the Underlord until he deemed it appropriate to finish his final battle. Dinosaurs will once again come back and claim this land back. People will be aligned with Lucifer and try to save it for themselves. The final endgame here is human versus dinosaur. Story 19. How come all these ghost hunters go to German castles and try to communicate with 300-year-old ghosts in English? Story 20. A pseudoscience answer. Dinosaurs died so much longer ago, their energy signature, which is what ghosts are really, has had more than enough time to dissipate. This is why people who did more recent are usually easier to see. Their energy is just more coherent. Story 21. I only see the ghosts of gerbils, and that is fudge weird. What a strange and wondrous world we live in. Story 22. Tobin's spirit guide says that all spectral manifestations lose their ability to project visual articulation after 1,000 years have passed. Story 23. Speak for yourself. Last night, a pack of ghost Dilophosaurus burst through my wall and gave me an ectoplasm bukkake. Story 24. Honestly, because we are the most narcissistic, self-absorbed species this planet has ever witnessed. We think we are the dominant species to the point that everything else is inferior, and many feel that everything non-human is simply here to serve us and has no soul. self-centered. Maybe other species think the same thing, but we don't have innumerable volumes of documented proof of said sentiment. Story 25. Every time you see fuel prices going up and your gas guzzler V6 V8 nearing empty, that feeling you get inside is the dinosaur ghost biting your jerk. Story 26. Dinosaurs never accepted Jesus as their Lord and Savior. They are in purgatory with all the unbaptized babies. Story 27. Serious response. Christianity, along with probably most religions, don't believe that animals have souls. Ghosts would be, in theory, souls that have no body, and since only people have souls, ghosts would only be people. Story 28. Because they are haunting their geological level. You have to dig to get to them. An ancient Roman ghost would look like a head and shoulders or something, faux show. Story 29. I took physiology, so I actually know the answer to this one. Mammal cells have something called an ectoplasmic reticulum. As you know, ghosts are made from ectoplasm. The ectoplasmic reticulum reticulates ectoplasm throughout an animal's life cycle and gives it the ability to form ghosts upon passing. Dinosaur cells do not have this organelle and thus cannot form ghosts. Story 30. Nobody ever sees human ghosts. People may think they saw one, but they didn't. If ghosts existed, then at least one of those professional ghost hunters that have been on TV for years would have found one. But they haven't. Never. Not even once. Also, all the dinosaur ghosts turned into ghost oil millions of years ago. Everyone knows that. Story 31. You've made it to the front page. The idea is now out there, so prepare for some dino ghost sightings. Story 32. If you've ever watched Supernatural, you'll know that you eliminate a ghost by burning its worldly remains. So the answer to your question is petrol. Story 33. The ghosts that we see give off the same frequency that we can sense and understand. Dinosaur ghosts are on a different wavelength. Some animals can sense a larger range of those spiritual frequencies, like cats. Maybe they can see dinosaur ghosts. Most likely, though, they only can see as far down as chicken ghosts, dinosaur children, TLDR, spouted just made up, baseless ghost nonsense. Story 34. I'm sure someone on Tumblr has not only seen a dinosaur ghost, but identifies intimacy as a dinosaur ghost. Story 35. Only their direct descendants can see them. Every time a bird flies away, seemingly without reason, they just saw a dinosaur ghost. Story 36. Ghosts are actually the result of data on the heap that has no strong references, but still has some weak references and has not yet been garbage collected. Dinosaurs had ghosts, but the GC has long since run several times since their extinction, so all that data has been freed. Story 37. I can't believe that nobody has pointed out that dinosaurs have had millions of years to create dinosaur ghost technology, so now most of them are roaming space. Sure, some of them have accepted their fates and moved on to dinosaur heaven or hell, but the vast majority of them are dinonauts. Story 38. This is my point of view on this subject, and I'm just shooting in the dark here. Now, from my perspective, we are all made of energy, and it's possible we leave traces of that behind us. When we pass on, the only way I think how and why on this subject is if the dinosaur energy footprint is long gone, as maybe it only lasts so long, and maybe this is why we don't see them now. Just keep in mind, in the Middle Ages there are pictures, paintings of what they called dragons. Now, maybe this was the final sighting of a ghost of this type. I know I am reaching here, but it's my best unique guess here. Story 39. Because ghosts only haunt their ancestors. Birds see dino ghosts all the time. That's why birds are so scared and act really weird. Story 40. I actually slept walk and saw a dinosaur in my hallway. It was pretty scary, but overall he was a good dude. Story 41. Because most people who claim to have seen ghosts couldn't get their imagination that far, and most of them probably don't believe in dinosaurs. Religious people is who I'm talking about. Story 42. Dinosaurs rejected Christ and he subjugated them to his will and used them to ride the earth. Thus, they have no souls and cannot have a presence after passing. Story 43. Obviously, that proves that God created the world 6,000 years ago and placed the fossils to confuse us. Story 44. Everyone who sees dinosaur ghosts has already died of fright or gone catatonic or lost their voice and can't talk about it. Story 45. Because of pattern recognition, human brains are especially good at seeing patterns that resemble human features where there is none. In short, because anything can look like a human to us because of our brains. Story 46. Serious because humans are genetically programmed to recognize faces and human figures. Edit, even where there aren't any. Story 47. One interesting thing about delusions is they are colored strongly by culture. In India, schizophrenics tend to hear gentle voices telling them to keep their houses clean, while in the US they tend to hear voices telling them to hit people. Story 48. The way I imagine it, ghosts are like overwritten data on a hard drive, not yet zeroed out like their out-of-limbo brethren. The most important parts of their existence, in personal terms, emotionally exhaustive events, added the most data to the collective experience, and its remnants are still visible in this ghostly form. Kinda like an alias file with a broken link. Even if dinosaurs were conscious beings with emotion, their hard drive is more like a floppy disk, a previous generation of collective data which is unreadable by our collective experience, or else it exists at a frequency that our dial isn't turned to, so we don't see it. Story 49. I didn't know there were so many stupid people on this sub that actually believe ghosts don't exist. Story 50. It's most likely humans had more spirit energy than dinosaurs did, or perhaps human has had more contact with the spirit world. Story 51. Sadly, most have never seen a real dinosaur, or a side theory. Maybe everything fades with time, hence no caveman ghosts. At a 7. Story 52. Our brains constantly scan for human faces and find them even when they aren't really a human. Our brains don't constantly scan for dinosaur faces, but that would be fun. Story 53. People do see dinosaur ghosts, but there's a catch. With how long any dinosaur ghosts have been dead, most have either passed on by coming to terms with their passing, or faded into oblivion by exposure to sunlight. Any that are still here after all this time have had millions of years to learn the ins and outs of being a ghost. Even the dumbest of the dinosaurs could pretty much master the most advanced ghost techniques with that much time, as long as they are always careful to get somewhere safe when the sun rises. Out of the dino ghosts that are smart enough to keep out of the sun, many probably give themselves up by choice. 65 million years is a long time to live as a spirit, and after time the sweet oblivion offered by the sun can seem like a blessing. But those that hold on will only become stronger ghosts. In general, few are strong enough to do this. Those that do are generally the toughest of the tough, the large carnivores. So, by now, very few dino-ghosts remain. But those that do are very good at hiding themselves